Ditch the fairy tale princess. It's time to step outside the status quo and blaze your own trail. The path littered with setbacks, successes, and newfound passions. Why? Because when you break away from the script, you start to pursue a life by choice. One that is all yours. Live unscripted and rewrite your life. Welcome back to the show. I'm so excited to dive into this topic today because many of you might be going through something similar. Maybe you're going through a transition in life. Maybe you are thinking about making some moves in your life. And I want to give you some insight as to how I got where I'm at right now, because I know a lot of you maybe are new to the show. Maybe you've been listening for a while and you're like, that's awesome. You have a podcast. You've stepped into the coaching space. You created a podcast course. But how did you know when it was time to start leaning into your other gifts? How did you know when it was time to start allowing yourself to explore other avenues for what might be called work later on in life? And so this episode's probably not going to be very structured. It's just going to be me talking to you about what I've been going through and what I've been dealing with in the last couple of years, because it's real, it's raw, and it's just me. I love to share. And I always hope that by sharing, I can inspire you to take some sort of action in your life if you've been playing small, feeling stuck, stagnant, or just like you need some extra support. So think of me as your girlfriend. We're having a chat. Maybe we're having coffee, definitely having a latte somewhere in some bougie cafe, talking about the things that are really like keeping us up at night. And I truly have known for about 4 or 5 years that I was done doing hair, that it was my time to move on, and that I wasn't giving the quality of service to my clients that I had been for so many years. It wasn't the thing that was lighting me up anymore. And when I started to kind of explore what doing something different might look like, I had every feeling wash over me. Feelings of fear, feelings of inadequacy, feelings of unworthy to step into a different space because I didn't have the education or background to do it. Who was I to give up something that was pretty much, quote unquote, a successful career, right, in the industry to try to go do something else? Why would I shoot myself in the foot? I'd already had this part of my life figured out. But there was always something inside of me that knew that this wasn't going to be it forever. And I was in it for a really long time. I mean, I just finally hit the hard stop button this past week, and it's been 22 years. So this wasn't a light thought that I had. This wasn't like I'm bored, I want to do something else now. Like, I gave it a solid run. And these feelings started to pop up around probably years 7, 8. And I pushed through. I had Kai about 10 years into my career, and things started to shift during that time. And my priorities were changing. I wanted more free time on the weekends to spend with him. I wanted to not work so late during the week so I could be home with him. And I quickly realized that in this industry, you essentially trade time for money, right? Like in many careers, right? Even if you have a salary, you're still basically at some hourly rate or some hourly value. Even our higher ups, even people who are, coaching and doing things on a big level, you can still break it down to hourly. But for me in the industry, if I didn't go do the work, I didn't get paid. And as a private booth renter, if I didn't work, I still had to pay. So not only was there overhead, there was responsibility and everything in between. So I say all that to say, I think I realized somewhere around that timeline of like year 16, 17, 18, that I wanted to be more mobile. I had been fixed to a spot in a town based off a business I had built. And I kind of felt stuck, like I could never go anywhere. Yes, I could have probably moved if I really wanted to and rebuilt somewhere else. I know many people have done it, but it started to pique the curiosity for me. What would it look like if I could be location free? I'd heard so many people talking about financially free, but I was like, location free sounds like the rich life to me. When you see people working from the beach, I was like, I'm down to work, but I would love to be able to work anywhere I want. So that's really where all this started. So if you're curious as to like, why did you leave the industry? Did you not like hair anymore? Did you have a bad experience? Did something happen? No, none of that happened. I've actually had the most wonderful career I could have ever hoped for. It's everything that I hoped this industry would give me. I've literally met some of the most amazing humans by way of being in the beauty industry. Not only my clients have been exceptional humans and people that I've gotten to learn from, grow with, but like people that I work with, conversations with different various people that work in all the different salons, even back to when I went to beauty school. I experienced some things along the way, right? That's for another podcast and really is not relevant to where I'm at in my life right now. And I don't really love to bond over bullshit. So I'll leave that for a rainy day when I'm on some shit that maybe deserves to be a podcast episode. But I got to a point where I was really, really curious. What would it look like if I could work from anywhere? So that's where this all started, if you were wondering. And thanks to all that curiosity, podcasting, a few years later became something that I saw as an accessible avenue or platform to potentially grow into something that makes money, or at least allows for me to connect on a deeper level with people like I was doing in person behind the chair, but in a different, bigger way. Like I can serve so many more people with these podcast episodes than I ever could behind the chair. I'm only at around 40,000 downloads for the podcast, but I've never touched 40,000 people in a short amount of time, right? So the potential to grow as I watch other podcasters hit, 5 million, 10 million, 20 million downloads, like that is a huge impact. And I knew I could do more than impact the small community that I'm in now. Well, it's always great to start small, but if you have that little on your heart and you want to impact more, you want to lead more, you want to see what's out in the big, big world, give yourself a gift of some sort of permission to start to explore what that looks like for you. So for me, it was, what does the online space look like? And I sure wish at the time, I was wishing into the ethers, I wish somebody would create something for us early stage entrepreneurs so that we could start to learn the language. Like I didn't want to go back to college and learn marketing. I didn't want to go back to college and learn graphic design to make my own websites. I didn't want to do all of that. I didn't want to spend the next 10 years in school. I wanted to pay to skip the line. And lo and behold, one of my mentors, Chris Harder, Lori and I had done fitness competitions and fitness things in the past. So I had found out about him through her. So he had been running this elite level mastermind for people making over $500,000 in their business. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be nice if you created something for us, sir? Next thing I knew, he was on there. And I've talked about this before in previous episodes, talking about this mastermind called Fast Foundations, where it was for early stage entrepreneurs looking to grow and scale their online business. And so, of course, right away I reached out and I was like, oh my God, you created this for me. But the problem is I don't have an online business yet to grow and scale. I want to get into online space, but I have no idea what I would do or how I could use my current skill set to monetize a business. And so he said to me something everybody should use in their back pocket. If you ever host or co-run or host or co-run, you guys know what I mean. Host something where you're teaching or whatever to somebody who's curious about what you have. He said to me, get in the rooms and see if these people can help you figure it out. And I was like, so put myself in a vulnerable situation to talk about my big dreams and feelings, but come in totally like unprepared of what I'm going to grow and scale. And he's like, yeah, masterminds have changed our life. And I think if you join, it will do the same for you. And I was like, YOLO. That's what I needed to hear. I needed someone to pour belief into me. I needed someone to push me and challenge me and make me put my money where my mouth is. And so that's what I did. I invested in this mastermind and it completely changed everything. It opened up my eyes to the possibilities of what was out there for people online and how to make money online. And so it really unlocked something in me that has been growing ever since. That was in early 2019. And as you guys know, I talk about it all the time. I'm also the co-host for Fast Foundations, the Mastermind podcast now. So who would have thought that 4 years later, I just had to count on my fingers, 4 years later, I'm here working alongside the current owners of Fast Foundations, the Mastermind, which is Jim and RT. A couple of good friends of mine bought the program from Chris and Lori about a year ago. And we started a podcast for it because I'm so passionate about podcasting and getting out free value to people so that they can see what it is that you teach and they can connect with you and you can build an audience around that and a community. So I was so fortunate that after about a year, I reached out to Chris to, be on my podcast when I started it. And, I said something about coaching and that he should have coaches, this and that. And he invited me to step into the coaching space and coach the other early stage entrepreneurs who were coming into the mastermind. So I got to sit in on several more rounds of the mastermind and learn from all of our guest speakers and hear the same information poured into each and every cohort. So it was really starting to resonate with me how this online space worked and how maybe I could find my zone of genius, if you will, in this space. And lo and behold, what have I been doing for the last 22 years? Talking to people, asking questions, being nosy, sharing information, giving my advice, giving my opinion, holding space for my clients, somewhat coaching to a lot of them. And I realized through putting myself out there that I did have a skill set and I did want to use it. And it slowly but surely took over to the point where I've built in enough confidence now in the last 4 years with my podcast being the last 2 years, staying around high level entrepreneurs, pushing myself, continuously showing up in different masterminds and rooms. And I'm at this point now where I'm like, okay, Jess, you went to online college. Okay. You spent the last 4 years studying, doing the work, and now it's time to graduate. And my graduation present to myself was going all in. And so I hope you can find yourself in this crazy funny story, because I say all this to say, like, you can reinvent yourself at any age, at any stage, with any limiting beliefs that you might have had previously. You can educate yourself enough to not be held back by those limiting beliefs anymore. You can get enough experience under your belt to start speaking about something at a level that maybe not everyone's at yet, right? So I've just released the podcast course. If you've been following me on social media, you see Start Your Damn Podcast is now ready for you when you are ready to start your podcast, which I truly believe that just about everybody who is growing a community, who is building an awareness around their personal brand should have a podcast. Now, you can totally figure out if a podcast is right for you by hopping on a call with me. We can chat about that and figure that out. But when you grab this course, you do get 2 one-to-one calls with me where we sit down, we ideate, we figure out how to strategize your personal, perspective on how you can use this podcast to just have fun and use it as a hobby and a way to express yourself. 2, create, know, like, and trust with your growing audience and really build a community around your message. Or 3, get strategic and use it as top of funnel in order to produce multiple pieces of content like we do for Fast Foundations and like I do for my own personal brand. So last week, I was moving from the salon I've been at for the last 6 months, which was my original hair home for about 10 years, way back when. And I was moving to a smaller space. And the reason I was doing that was because I had convinced myself, well, if I get a little closer to home, if I get to a little smaller space, if I make things easier for me and my clients, I'll still want to do this. And I thought, you can do this, Jess. I kept trying to pep talk myself into staying in the game. And I knew it was a matter of time before I called it quits. But I really didn't see it coming. And after a couple of late night sessions with Scott and a couple of conversations with close girlfriends and really mapping out what I want the rest of this year to look like, there is no room in my schedule and in my days for showing up at the salon anymore. Plus, when you work in a people-to-people business, you don't want to give half of yourself. You want to give your full version of yourself. You want to be fully committed to the craft that you're doing when you're doing something like hairdressing. So I knew it wasn't fair to my clients. I knew it wasn't fair to this new salon that I was going to be showing up in. I just felt this huge calling to go all in. And the second I did it, the second I made that decision, I sent out messages to all my current clients. Once I got responses from everybody, I deleted their appointments. And after about 3 days, I was able to let everybody know what was going on. So I knew that after all that happened, I would know how I was going to feel, right? Like, you did it. Like, do you want to write back everybody and say, just kidding? Because it's not often that we cut off a source of income in our life. But I've learned from many mentors who have gone before me, like, you can't have all the plates spinning. At some point, you have to put some things down in order to really focus and build the next version of whatever it is you're putting out into the world. So, you hear the term burn the boats, you hear the term, put your money where your mouth is, put your back up against the wall, all those things. I've done a version of that in this last week. And it honestly feels so good because I've set myself up to be in this situation. Had I tried to do that 4 years ago, it wouldn't have worked out the way I wanted it to. I may have been able to move the needle faster in the things I'm doing now, but it wouldn't have felt as good, I don't think, because I love the way that I've exited. I love the way that I've respectfully helped my clients find new hairdressers. I love the way that I have been talking to my current clients about what's going to happen and how this might happen and just to be prepared. And, I feel really good about how I left that side of the street, if you will. So moving into this next chapter, what's that going to look like? What can you guys expect from me in this podcast? You saw the recent rebrand with the title now being called Unscripted. What do you guys think? Do you love it? Maybe you're out for a walk right now and you're like, I don't care what your podcast is called. I'm here for it. I love all the shit you share. I love the guests that you bring on. That's awesome. If there are topics that are on your heart or that have been coming up for you, I would love to hear from you. Send me a DM on Instagram at Jessica Bergio or hit up the podcast page at Unscripted, the podcast, and share with us your thoughts. And I'm not sure if you know, but we post a blog twice a week on the website, kind of going over the show notes and a little bit more detail of, thoughts around each podcast episode. So I am here to create content for you guys. I'm here to document the things I'm going through in hopes that you find some value and inspiration in what I'm doing right now. My whole goal is to help you grow your personal brand, to be authentic, and to show up more confidently. I feel like when we have the confidence, we get clarity. Often we're trying to find clarity when we're lacking the confidence. So clarity does equal confidence also. So it's one or the other. One leads to the next. If you can get clear, it often helps you build confidence. If you're rolling in some confidence by proof of things you've done in the past, often then the clarity shows itself. So I know for me that podcasting was super overwhelming. I didn't understand the tech. I didn't understand the algorithm of like how many episodes, how long. I didn't know anything about anything. And everywhere you looked and researched, there was different topics and different ways to help you start the podcast. So I realized that that's probably still something that people struggle with to this day. And I've looked up other podcast courses and they're pretty basic and vanilla. You can pretty much find everything you need on the internet right now. But I have been working with this amazing podcast team. I've worked with other amazing podcast teams in the past, and I've taken every collective piece of oopses and awesomes, and I've mapped them all out into a highly comprehensive podcast course with some amazing bonus content in there from one of my dear friends, Alex Street, teaching about storytelling for podcasts. And then really all the nitty gritty of if you did want to edit your own podcast, all of that's inside there as well. So we have left no stone unturned. So if you or anybody you know is interested in starting a podcast, this course is for you. The next thing coming out that I am getting super excited about is the Confidence Makeover. The Confidence Makeover is going to be your opportunity to build the confidence you need to show up and do the things that are on your heart, the things you say you want to be doing, the things you haven't quite been putting out into the world, the thing you haven't started to do yet. We have let fear, rejection, judgment, people pleasing, you name it, enter your struggle, your holdback, your block. You know what it is. And often it stems from a lack of confidence. And I know you see me and hear me show up and I sound confident, but there have been many days that I've struggled with my confidence. And I haven't always recognized that it's a confidence issue. I recognize that it's a procrastination issue or a lack of education issue. So I always like to term it something else rather than confidence. But what it boils down to is it was a lack of confidence around fear of failure and judgment. So with all that to be said, I have put together my signature method of helping you build the confidence you need to step into that next version. So if podcasting is something you're like, yeah, I'd love to one day, as soon as I get that confidence to be able to like start speaking my truth, Confidence Makeover will be for you. If you're someone who does not struggle with any sort of confidence and you're like, girl, I got this. I don't need shit. I just need the blueprint of how to start the damn podcast and grow it to be wildly successful, jump straight to the podcast. Until then, I hope you enjoyed these episodes on Unscripted. They bring me so much joy in bringing them out to you into the world. I love having conversations with amazing guests, helping showcase how you can rewrite your life. You are not stuck with the cards that you were dealt. You can do, be, and have whatever you want. The choice is yours. So let's all collectively agree that we are here for it. We are here for this season of growth. And I want you to recognize that you have the power to get shit done. You have the power to be your biggest cheerleader. I'm right here with you, cheering you on always. If you need that extra push, motivation, follow me on my stories in the morning. I love pouring belief into you because I I know that without that being given to me over the years, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. So I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast. Can't wait to hear from you, and I will see you on the next episode. Giving back is easy. Leave Unscripted your 5-star rating and written review. I appreciate your support more than I could ever put into words.